Formed in London, England in 1976, Iron Maiden was the creation of Steve Harris, formerly a member of the band Smiler. Named after a medieval torture device, the music was the beginning of a new era of rock. The heavy rock scene of the late 70s was widely seen as stale, with only a handful of bands proving their ability to survive and produce quality music. It was at this time that a new breed of young British bands began to emerge. This movement, which began to break cover in 1979 and 1980, was known as the new wave of British heavy metal. Iron Maiden were one of the first bands of the genre, and many would say they are its definitive example. New wave of British heavy metal bands dealt in faster, more energetic rock than any of their forefathers. There were several band member changes in the Iron Maiden lineup in the very early days, and come the release of their debut EP, the band featured Steve Harris, Dave Murray, Paul Di'Anno, and Doug Sampson. The band made its live debut at the Carts and Horses pub in Stratford, East London in 1977 before perfecting its sound on the local pub circuit over the next 2 years. Unable to get a response from record companies, the band sent a 3-track tape to Neil Kay, DJ at North London's Hard Rock Disco, the Kingsbury Bandwagon Soundhouse. Kay's adoration of Iron Maiden gave them welcome, which led to the release of the Soundhouse tapes on the band's own label. In November 1979, the band added second guitarist Tony Parsons to the lineup for 2 tracks on the Metal for Mothers compilation, but by the time the band began sessions for their debut album, he had been replaced by Dennis Stratton and Sampson by Cliff Burr. A promotional single, Running Free, reached number 34 on the UK charts and gave Maiden an appearance on BBC Television's Top of the Pops. The band refused to fake playing their instruments, and they became the first band since The Who to play live on the show. Iron Maiden was a roughly produced album, but reached number 4 in the UK album listings on the back of touring stints with Judas Priest and popular songs such as Phantom of the Opera. Killers boasted superior production to that of the first album, and saw Dennis Stratton replaced by guitarist Adrian Smith. In its wake, Iron Maiden became immensely popular among heavy metal fans, inspiring devotion, aided by blustering manager Rod Smallwood and apocalyptic mascot Eddie. The release of Number of the Beast was crucial to the development of the band. Without it, Iron Maiden might never have gone on to be such a force in the heavy metal arena. The album was a spectacular success, the sound of a band reaching their peak. It was also the debut of former infantryman and new vocalist Bruce Dickinson, replacing Paul Di'Anno. Formerly of the band Sampson, history graduate Bruce Dickinson made his live debut with Maiden on November 15, 1981. Singles such as Run to the Hills and The Number of the Beast were big UK charts hits, with Iron Maiden leaving behind a new wave of British heavy metal counterparts in success, just as the movement itself was beginning to end. The album Peace of Mind continued their success and was a major hit in the UK and USA. Cliff Burr was replaced by Nico McBrain on the sessions, formerly drummer with French metal band Trust, who had supported Maiden on their 1981 UK tour. Peace of Mind was similar to the previous album, showcasing the strong twin guitars of Murray and Smith, along with memorable vocal lines. Single offerings, Flight of Icarus and The Trooper, were instant hits as the band undertook 2 massive tours, which included 4 sellout dates at London's Hammersmith Odeon. With the arrival of Powerslave in November, some critics accused Iron Maiden of conforming to a self-imposed writing formula and playing safe with tried and tested ideas. There was no significant change from the 2 previous albums, but it was nonetheless happily bought by the band's supporters. Live After Death was a double album package of all their best-loved material, recorded live on their huge 11th-month world tour. By this time, Iron Maiden had secured themselves a position within the metal hierarchy, with their popularity spanning all continents. Summer in Time was a slight departure. It featured more melody than previously and the use of guitar synthesizers. Their songwriting still shone through, and now hit singles were easily attained, which were the songs Wasted Years and Stranger in a Strange Land. Reaching number 11 in the USA, this was another million-plus seller. Since the mid-'80s, Maiden had begun staging increasingly complex live shows, with elaborate lighting effects and stage sets. The Somewhere in Time tour was no exception. ensuring their continued fame as a live band, which had been the basis for much of their success. A period of inactivity preceded the release of Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, which was very similar to their previous album. A concept album, it kept a commercial edge and had hit singles in Can I Play With Madness, The Evil That Men Do, and The Clairvoyant. After another exhausting world tour, the band announced their plan to take a well-earned break of at least a year. Speculation abounded that this signaled the end of the band, brought on by lead singer Bruce Dickinson's solo project called The Tattooed Millionaire and his book, The Adventures of Lord Iffy Boat Race. After a long hiatus, news of the band surfaced again. Steve Harris felt that the direction pursued on the last two albums had been taken as far as possible, and a return to the style of old was planned. Unhappy with this game plan, Adrian Smith left to be replaced by Janik Jerries, who was formerly the guitarist with White Spirit and Ian Gillan. The live show was also scaled down and returned to much smaller venues. No Prayer for the Dying, their next album, was much more like mid-period Iron Maiden and was well received, bringing enormous hit singles with Holy Smoke and Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. The obligatory world tour followed. Despite being denounced as Satanists in Chile, 1992 also saw the band debut at #1 in the UK charts with Fear of the Dark, which housed another major single. However, it was Bruce Dickinson's swan song with the band, who invited demo tapes from new vocalists following the lead singer's announcement that he would depart following current touring engagements. His eventual replacement was Blaze Bayley. His debut album was The X Factor, and on this and at live gigs, he easily proved his worth. This was a daunting task, having had to learn Maiden's whole catalog and win over patriotic Dickinson followers. Adrian Smith also resurfaced in the new band, Psycho Motel, in 1996. After this, Maiden didn't have much activity and they began to fall off a bit. But then, in February 1999, it was announced that Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith had rejoined the band, restoring the classic 80s lineup. During the 2000s, Maiden have put out 4 albums and still continue to tour and produce new material. They have continued to influence and inspire bands and fans since the late 70s to today.